Welcome back. The New York Times is reporting that Ukraine has privately floated the idea of renaming a section of the country after President Trump. That's according to 4 people familiar with the talks who spoke to the paper. The area in question is located within a highly contested section of the war zone in eastern Ukraine. The idea considered was to rename it Donnyland in a bid to appeal to President Trump's vanity and push him toward resisting Russia's territorial demands. Sorry, Vladimir, you can't have Donnyland. Negotiators have also reportedly floated the idea of Trump's so-called Board of Peace playing a role in administering the area. I guess you have to say, Ukraine points for creativity. For flattery could get you everywhere. They've tried everything else with Trump. He still seems deferential to Moscow. Why not give this a shot? Of course, it shouldn't come to that. Elsewhere, the Trump administration is considering a plan to send more than 1,100 Afghans who aided U.S. war efforts to the Democratic Republic of Congo after halting their resettlement to the United States. As first reported again by the New York Times, the group, who has been stranded in Qatar for over a year, includes interpreters, special operation troops, and more than 400 children. They were evacuated for their safety and promised a path to resettlement in the United States. An aid worker briefed on the plan says the Afghans may be given a stark choice: either return to Afghanistan and live under the Taliban, or relocate to Congo, a country already struggling with a major humanitarian crisis, a country to these people have no connection. Advocates warn the plan could put lives in danger and, again, undermine U.S. commitment to its allies. And Claire McCaskill, when this story broke yesterday, I texted with a few people who had been in Afghanistan. These are Americans, and who also had helped some of the Afghan refugees escape the fall in 2021 when the Taliban rushed to power again. This is. I'm glad we're not glossing by this. This is hard story to take because of the Trump administration's efforts to halt migration. Even in this case, Afghans who sacrificed, who risked so much to help us, and yet we are betraying them yet again.
Yeah. When I was in Afghanistan as a senator, I met some of the brave people that were coming to our assistance at great risk, not just to their lives, but to their families' lives. And there are scores of veterans, including Jason Kander here in Missouri, who ran for the Senate, was a former statewide office holder, who worked very hard to help those who were stuck and left behind, even though they were always promised they would be taken care of. The depravity of Stephen Miller knows no boundaries. This is Stephen Miller. This is him deciding that those 400 children that belong to very brave Afghans who helped our country deserve no better than going to a strange country where they are not going to be welcomed. There is not going to be a system that will allow them to assimilate easily. There will not be a way for them to have an income and support their families. The Congo is gripped in political warfare and humanitarian crisis. Why don't we just say we're just going to send you someplace where you're going to have a miserable life, even though we promise something differently? At what point in time does our word mean anything if we can't keep our word to people who help us in war? I just think this is one of the most immoral acts that this administration has performed if they do this. And that's saying something, because it's a high, high bar of immorality in this administration.
And the damage being done will take a long time to heal, long after this administration has moved on. Switching gears now, Kevin Warsh, President Trump's pick to be the next chair of the Federal Reserve, appeared before the Senate Banking Committee yesterday. He was pressed on everything from monetary policy to his ties to the president and even the 2020 election. After the hearing, Republican Senator Thom Tillis, a member of the panel, reaffirmed his vow to block Warsh's nomination as long as the DOJ continues its criminal probe into current Fed Chair Jerome Powell over renovations to the Fed's headquarters. And President Trump, in recent days, has said he wants that investigation to continue. Let's bring in the co-anchor of CNBC's Squawk Box and a New York Times columnist, Andrew Ross Sorkin. Andrew, earlier in the show, we played the exchange between Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts and Kevin Warsh about the 2020 election, in which he would not simply say that Joe Biden won that election, a pretty pathetic display. Despite that, there is a sense that, he, of course, will be confirmed. He'll get his spot in the Fed chair, but only if Jerome Powell, the probe into Powell, disappears. Thom Tillis reaffirmed that yesterday.
Yeah, I think most folks feel that Kevin Warsh is a good choice for this role. I don't think there's a lot of people questioning the choice unto itself. I think Elizabeth Warren asked some very important questions about his independence, obviously. And there is this question that's now been asked of almost everybody who's been appointed by President Trump about the 2020 election. And invariably, they appear to be dodging that question repeatedly, I imagine because of the audience of one, which is this president. And, of course, that raises its own questions. But I think the larger overlay here is really this Thom Tillis piece and, more importantly, the Department of Justice and whether that investigation is going to continue. And the president, as we told you yesterday when we spoke to him on Squawk Box, effectively said there is no off-ramp, that he really does plan to pursue this. And so the question is when and if Kevin Warsh ultimately will get confirmed.
Yeah, very self-defeating, as Senator Tillis said there. Ashley, let's get your take here on the politics surrounding the Warsh pick, but also if indeed he is confirmed, it's an expectation he will cut interest rates as President Trump has hoped. What do you think that means for the business community, the American economy?
Well, first, I do think we're playing a little bit of chicken right here in regards to the administration and Senator Tillis. I do feel that because of Chairman Powell's term ending mid-May, that there's a couple more weeks that they are going to figure out how the vote forward is going to happen. I really believe that it will happen and he'll get confirmed. It's just right now, Leader Thune's hands are tied, but I'm sure the administration will blink and pull back the investigation because they do not want Warsh not confirmed. Listen, I believe Warsh at face value right now. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And if the interest rates are supposed to be cut or need to be cut, I feel that he will move forward with that. And if they don't, he won't. So I'm not going to tell him how to do his job. I do believe him and also the rest of the board that they will do what's right. He said many times yesterday that he wasn't going to give in to political pressure of any sort. And so I'm not going to talk negatively about him before he shows us what he can do.
Andrew, one more topic for you. United Airlines slashed their 2026 forecast amid rising fuel costs likely only to increase the longer the conflict in Iran continues.
Look, this is actually a bigger economic issue because not only they're slashing their own forecast, the question is what that's also going to ultimately do to pricing in terms of ticket pricing. They're going to lose money on tickets, obviously, they've already purchased haven't purchased. The question is, are there going to be higher ticket prices in the future? I think this is going to be a broader topic, and I think as we've talked about, especially as we get closer and closer to the midterms, depending on how long this standoff in the Middle East continues, and depends on what you think happens to the price of oil, I think we're going to see it, and we may see it impact the economy. Having said that, the markets, for the most part, stock market that is, has remained quite buoyant, in large part, as I said to you before, I think, because the view is that investors are not looking at what the world's going to look like tomorrow. They're looking at what the world's going to look like in 12 months from now.
Well, we shall see. Yes, plenty of green on the board this morning. CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin, thank you as always. Political strategist Ashley Davis, thank you as well. We should note, Ashley, the author of a new book titled The Power Pivot with Grit, Grace, and Growth.